All I saw was a bunch of empty suits chasing the same damn clients to make a little more money, to impress people they don't like with shit they don't ever use, and they're just working their asses off, and they're not happy. And when I was looking around seeing those 60 and 70 and 50-year-olds with their 5th marriage and not happy and not fulfilled, chasing the same damn clients, I was like, "Oh, hell no." And so I just had to leave, man. And so that's the truth, brother. And I don't share that very often. I know that probably sounds arrogant, but man, to this day, when I walk in, I don't wear those suits anymore. I've grown my hair out. I have a beard. Still eating at those restaurants when I want to eat there, not when I'm forced to eat there, when it's special. And I look around at those people, it actually makes me quite sad that that's what they feel they have to do and they just want validation. That's what they're seeking. They're seeking validation, brother, like all of us. But you're just never going to find it in that restaurant seeking those clients, my man.
That is Tommy Breedlove this week on the Do It For Yourself podcast. Hey, my friend. How you doing? It is no secret that these are some very strange times that we're going through, and I don't feel like I need to get into that. I feel like you know that already, and I'm hoping that this podcast is a short period of time where you have the ability to maybe escape what's going on and take a minute to listen to an amazing story of someone who is doing it for themselves. And my guest this week, Tommy Breedlove, is doing just that. Before we get into Tommy's story, I just want to ask for a favor of you very quick. If you could leave me a review on whatever app it is that you are using to consume this podcast. It's something that will help me out tremendously, and I would really, really appreciate that. My guest this week, Tommy. Tommy is a best-selling author on the Wall Street Journal and USA Today, and he is also a mindset coach, a keynote speaker. He coaches on business, relationships, mindset. And this is all after leaving a 20-year corporate career, working at a very large, one of the largest financial consulting firms in the world. And we get a chance to dive into Tommy's story and really find out who he was before starting this career, during this career, and the individual that he has transformed into after that career. And it's a it's an amazing story. It really is. It's a story that I am honored to share on the podcast, and I'm going to let Tommy do the storytelling. I'm not going to take anything away from his story, but I'm very excited for this conversation. It was a pleasure to sit down with Tommy, and I got a great, great vibe from him. So without further ado, here is my interview with Tommy. All right. Well, listen, man, I'm ready to go if you're ready. Like,
Let's rock.
let's just rock and roll. Let's get into it. So, Tommy, I want to say thank you so much for joining me on the Do It For Yourself podcast. I'm really looking forward to getting into our full blown conversation. You and I have been chatting for about 10 minutes or so just before we started the recording. And I'll be honest, man, I'm loving the energy, and I'm loving what you're bringing. Within the first 10 minutes here. So this is, I can tell, going to be a great conversation.
Super pumped, Ian. Glad to be here, brother.
So we got connected. I believe it was someone on your side that actually reached out to me and had sent me your bio, and I started reading through it. And I'll be honest, the thing that really caught my eye, just right off of the bio that was sent, was the fact that you had a 20-year corporate career for a huge, huge financial consulting firm, and you left that. And that was just one of the things where I was like, that, I mean, when I think of doing it for yourself, leaving such a massive career like that, like I knew instantaneously that we needed to get connected. So I'm very, very happy that we did.
Thank you, my brother. I don't know if that makes me one of the most courageous people that you know, or one of the most stupid. So we'll figure it out, right?
That is very true. That is very true. So
I love it.
before we get into the 20-year career that you had, I want to start from prior to that career, and I want to start before even going to college because I know going to college was a very big deal for you, being the first person in your family to graduate from college. But I want to start a little bit back before that, and talk about your childhood a little bit and talk about, how it was for you as a kid growing up, specifically in, what you defined as a violent environment.
Yeah, brother. So I grew up in South Atlanta, good blue collar part of the world. Most people down there were Delta mechanics, worked for the Ford plant or Coca Cola plant. And so, it was a good, hardworking part of the world. And I was the youngest, skinniest, weakest boy in an all boy neighborhood. And so I grew up, especially inside the home, with a lot of violence and abuse, and in every way imaginable, actually. And so, the worst thing that happens to you when you're a young person who faces a lot of violence or bullying or abuse, both inside and out of the home, eventually over time you become the thing you hate the worst, and you become that bully yourself. And so fast forward till I'm 18 years old, and in the blink of an eye, and with way too much alcohol in my bloodstream, the worst happened. I committed a violent crime, and I was looking at so instead of going to college, and I had always intended for to be the first person to graduate, to go to college and graduate. But instead of looking at going to a good school, I was looking at 7 years in prison. And luckily, by the grace of God and some good fortune, and the fact that it was my first real time getting in trouble, the felonies were dropped to pretty severe misdemeanors, and I was sentenced to 2 years and ended up spending my 19th birthday incarcerated. And so, it's not the greatest start to a life, but it is the foundation for which I stand on and talk about and live on now. So that's a little bit about my childhood, brother, and and leading into the career. So, and you and I were talking about this. So it's a really interesting thing is when I got out of jail, that's when I actually picked myself up, dusted myself off. I actually met a mentor there that really helped me with this too. One of the first real male mentors that appeared in my life. But I ended up going to work as a machine operator for $6 an hour in a nuclear waste container factory, and putting myself to school in community college at night. From there, I actually did end up at the University of Georgia. Go Dogs, by the way. And graduated there with an accounting degree. So I went from jail to a nuclear waste factory to community college to the University of Georgia to Deloitte and Touche, believe it or not, a really, really large public accounting and financial consulting firm. Today it might be the largest, but back then it was one of the largest. In just 3 years, brother. So I was really proud of that, really proud that I picked myself up and dusted myself off. Certainly not proud of my actions, and society held me rightfully so accountable to those actions.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's a little bit about me growing up and getting into and out of college, my brother.
And Atlanta, is, from what obviously what you see on TV isn't always exactly true, but I do believe that Atlanta is historically a pretty violent city, is it not?
I don't know, brother. I think it has, like every other, I think it has some pockets. I certainly didn't grow up in one of those extremely violent. So outside of the home, there was a lot of racial tension though where I grew up.
Hmm.
I remember being involved in a lot of racial violence as a very young man. But most of the stuff that I experienced, unfortunately, was inside the home. And then, did I take a lot of beatings outside of the home and a lot of, being the youngest, weakest kid in the neighborhood? Yeah, but I don't wanna, like, diminish it, but I think I think that's boys being boys,
Mhm.
eventually I grew up and I'm a big dude now, man, so I'm 6'2" and can hold my own, but then I wasn't, and so the whole point of that is there was really no safe place for me, not only physically, but emotionally and mentally. And so that can take its toll on a young person, whether male or female, black, white, doesn't really matter what color you are. If you grow up in and around that stuff, it really sinks down into your soul and body. And sometimes we become the thing that we hate the worst. And so, yes, Atlanta certainly has some very violent areas, I'm sure, but the neighborhood I grew up in certainly wasn't one of them. But it also wasn't the safest place in the world either.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, not having somewhere to go, not having and granted, I think we should say, having a safe place to go. We're not talking about, the safe place like a safe place that we have in 2020. We're talking about a legitimate safe environment for
Yeah,
a child to go to, but not having somewhere like that to go to, like you said, I can only imagine the kind of toll that that's going to take on you. And then, by the time you get to high school, you're not worried about finding a safe place, you're worried about, like, holding your own at that point because even though now, of course, looking back, hindsight's always 2020, but you think you're an adult when you're in high school, and you're approaching 18 years old, and, um, really, you're not. I mean, you're still a kid at that point in time, but you think you're an adult, so you feel like you have to hold your own at that point.
totally, man. And by the time I got to high school, at that time I was running in more of the cool crowd, for lack of a better word. And, wearing all these masks, tough guy, cool guy, important guy, funny guy, chasing the girls guy. And, was living multiple lives. And, and you just never, I never dealt with any of those wounds from pre 15, the wounds, the scared, the insecurities, the emotional toll, all that was taken on me. And so when you start running in and around the wrong people, I started getting in trouble around 15, 16, 17, got kicked out of certain external organizations, ended up getting arrested younger for drinking too much one day from skipping school. So it was just this escalation of events that just kept leading to the dark side of life. And there's no real excuse for it. It's just where I found safety and comfort. And it ended up almost costing me everything at 18, man. So you're absolutely right.
Now, coming from, like a blue collar area and blue collar family and everything, you said that your charges were dropped down, and would you credit that to having really good lawyers? Would you credit it to
Oh no,
luck,
brother.
or I
My
mean,
lawyer was terrible.
that's
I
what I
mean, it was
mean.
funny.
Yeah.
And let me be clear here, man. I was 1,000,000% guilty. And one of the best things do you ever want to harm someone else? Especially, no, you don't. You just simply don't want to do it. At least I don't now. And so I was 1,000,000% guilty. Luckily, it was my first adult offense. And so they decided to drop the aggravated assault down to assault and battery, but it was a pretty heavy misdemeanor. So I was still sentenced to a year on that charge. And I was actually sentenced to another year on criminal trespassing. So it was 2 years. And luckily they suspended one, but I did end up spending some time there in my 19th birthday incarcerated. But my attorney, we were poor and didn't know any better. And apparently, we hired a real estate attorney who did deed law and not a criminal defense. He had apparently done a couple of criminal defense. So that tells you how naive and silly we were. But at the end of the day, man, it's, being charged, being held accountable, even if I didn't understand it at the time, even if I didn't understand, the why I was doing things, I still needed to be held accountable. And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
And so now we can, fast forward up a little bit because you get through your birthday that you spend incarcerated. You get out, you get through, you start getting to community college. I'm assuming that because, you were working, you were also paying your own way to get through college. But aside from you always having this goal to get through college, graduate, and be the first in your family to graduate. What, if anything else, was your motivation to get through college?
Well, at the time, I was working at not only that, I worked in the Pep Boys warehouse for a significant amount of time too. So you don't realize, and I was working for somewhere between $5 and $7 an hour for an average of $6 an hour. So when you work that hard during the day, one thing I knew for sure is I didn't want to go back to that jail cell, and nor was I ever going to go back to that. But I also didn't want to live the struggle. I mean, I remember times that I had to pawn my car in order to get it fixed so that I could show up to work and school. And so there was a time in my life, brother, that money was as tight as it could possibly be. And so, yes, I was paying my own way. I was financing my school, community college, and eventually University of Georgia with student loans. But I just knew how much I was struggling to just make ends meet, and how hard I was working for so little amount of money. And so that was a probably the biggest driver was fear. I didn't want to go back, and it's amazing what a revolving door incarceration is. And luckily, I mean, from some higher grace that I was dropped to misdemeanors because I would have never been able to have this conversation with you. It had been felony. So I think it was fear. I think it was motivation, seeing how hard people work, for how little money. And also, I was gifted with the gift of good intelligence, so I never found school too difficult. And I love to learn, and that has never left me to this day. And so, constant learning and growing. I love school, both the community college and University of Georgia, and I probably read 4 books a month now. So, growing and learning has always been a key. And I just knew that I wanted a better life for myself, and so it was a driver for me, man.
When you were going through college and you had this work ethic to not go back, and you knew that you never wanted to go back and be in that position again, but at the time you're working your ass off, for between 5 and 7 bucks an hour. Did you have a feeling inside and know ultimately one day this work ethic that I have, this hard work that I'm putting forth is going to pay dividends in the long run? Like if I put in this much work somewhere else, once I get out of college, I'm going to be successful.
100%. And when I say I did very well in school, I crushed school. I took it very, very seriously. So it wasn't until Deloitte actually offered me a job that I let up. And so up until that time, I only made one B, and that's because I didn't understand the computers on a trigonometry test. So I was just crushing school. Had unbelievable grades. By the time I got to the University of Georgia, I started joining every honor society and fraternity and business fraternity I could be in. So yeah, I had the work ethic, and I was also blessed with some smarts. And so I guess I don't know if I'm intelligent, but I can certainly take tests very well, and that's a gift when you're in college. And I think
Mhm.
some people that can't take tests are probably much smarter than I am. But yeah, I studied hard, I worked hard, I played hard, and I plugged into everything I possibly could because I was still honestly nervous. I didn't know, with all the hard work and even all the good grades, hiring somebody with two violent misdemeanors on his, you
Mhm.
know, they didn't just let me in University of Georgia either. I had to write them a paper, and I had to be interviewed, and they talked to me about, my past. I was very honest and vulnerable about it. I'm still, to this day, this is 30 something years later. That's something I need to be held accountable for. But even then, with all of the good grades, all of the hard work, all the honor societies, I was super nervous that, hey, am I even going to get offered a job? And no one knew this at the time, but I was willing to take anything because I had student loans to pay off, and I was just ready to go into the workforce and get to it, brother, and prove myself that way.
One more thing I wanted to ask you about college, joining the fraternities and honor society and business and all this. Um, was that an effort to stay away from the bad crowd that you had known for so long?
No, what was cool is, so I had multiple groups of friends growing up. I had the good crowd, the bad crowd, and everything in between. And I was always drawn to the darkness, and I don't know why. But in college, I was never really, everyone around me was really hard workers. And I also gravitated toward the more blue collar, this is their first experience in college too. And so we knew we didn't have jobs waiting on us. We knew we didn't have legacy money waiting on us. And we knew nothing was guaranteed because we had no network. So we had to work our ass off for it. And so I gravitated those people, and some of those people are still my lifelong friends. And let me be clear, those guys and gals, they have kicked ass. And when I tell you, I mean, some of them are CFOs at some of the largest corporations. Some of them are CEOs. A lot of them made partners in large firms, and they did it on their back and their hard work because they knew nothing was guaranteed for them. And so that's who I gravitated toward because until later in life, I'd pretty much got that negativity out of my system.
Mhm.
And so I was ready to move forward, brother.
Well, and the only reason I ask is because, college is a space where you still could get potentially sucked in,
Oh,
quite
totally.
quite
Totally.
easily and not even realize that it's happening,
Oh, totally.
you
That can
know?
happen in any part of life, man.
Mhm,
Any part of
mhm.
life. Totally.
Yep. And so you get to this consulting firm. I'm sure coming in, you're starting off as low man on the totem pole, but you have this work ethic that we've just been talking about all through your college career that has benefited you. So you get there, and how is it when you first get there?
It was a little intimidating when I first got there. I really didn't know anything about large public accounting, financial consulting, and mergers and acquisitions firms, but I knew I was at one of the top 5 or 6 firms in the world. And it's because I had really good grades. I mean, I was being courted by not only them, but a lot of other companies. So it really was very humbling for me to be as highly recruited as I was. Starting was a little intimidating, but again, a lot of people there, they were second, third, fourth generation of working in places like this and knew what to expect. Me, I had no idea what to expect. So I worked very, very hard, probably too hard, which did not pay dividends in the long run. But, I was probably right off the bat, at a minimum 10 hours a day, sometimes 12, 13, 14 hours a day, and even into the weekends, just learning every single thing I could, just putting my head down and doing the work, and just moving forward into the career. And I absolutely loved that career for a long, long time because I never got bored. I was learning something new every day. I always felt like everyone around me was smarter than I was, which is always a good thing, by the way. That's not an insecurity thing. That just means that it drives you for something more. And so I plugged in the work and absolutely loved it and did very, very well. I struggled a bit the first year, like just learning the attitudes and people and learning how to deal with some of that. But after my first year, man, it just skyrocketed from there. So
And so how does one go from, graduating college, coming into a firm, probably at the very, very low end, and ultimately then become a shareholder? Obviously, we know that it was 100% your work ethic was part of it. But can you take me through that course? Like how does that happen?
yeah, so I think it's some fortune, some hard work, and some intention. And so I was recruited out because I was placed in, I was in the manufacturing and distribution group at Deloitte, and I worked in a lot of international companies. Back then, every dime counted. And so this very large German firm called me and offered me like 10,000 more dollars and a bigger title. And I just jumped on it. And I was very loyal to Deloitte. I loved it there. That was the pre-Enron days. And so it's changed a lot since then. So then I went to this German firm, and that was my foray into complete international business. And I had a pit stop. Candidly, there I got canned because I had become this like arrogant little shit that thought he was smarter than the partners, and it ended up costing me a job there. So I did have an interim stint at a small firm, which was really good to learn about small businesses and other things. And thank you so much. I told you my voice was giving out, so some hot tea was just delivered to me. So this is amazing. And so had a small stint at this small firm, but then there was a very large Southeast regional firm that did business around the world that was looking for someone to run their international practice over time. And so I was recruited into that. And that's where I ended up going from manager to principal to senior partner to international practice leader to eventually being elected to the board of directors and a owner of the firm up to the age of 39. And I think something I did very different. I wasn't just technically sound in my craft at the time. I think I also looked around me to see who was actually making partner and running the business. So there's practicing the craft of financial consulting and public accounting and mergers and acquisition, and then there's running the business. And I think people were too focused too much on the technical side, and I focused on sales, learning the business, how to run and manage the firm, how to learn and lead people. And so that's what I practiced my craft on. And in the interim, it probably cost me sometimes ten to $20,000 less than everybody else. But in the long run, I was making sometimes one, two, three, four times what the technical people were. So I focused it on people skills, the leadership skills, the administration skills, and how to actually run a company. And I think over time, that's what led me to become a partner and board member at such a young age at such a big firm in the Southeast United States.
Yes, and I would imagine that you were probably, at this point when you're on the board and you're an international practice leader, you're probably surrounded by people who are 5 to maybe even 10 years your senior, and
20.
it
Some of the guys on the board were 70 something years old, so much more than that.
yeah, and so they're probably turning around and looking at you like, "How the hell did this little shit get up here with us?" You know?
Yeah, what's good and bad in that world, because sometimes that world, when we lose the humanity side of business, that's when businesses go wrong. But fortunately, I think they were more scared of losing me because I was really good at bringing in clients, and so the numbers couldn't lie. And they knew that and plus the international marketplace was just growing exponentially, and that was my expertise. And so um, both my expertise, the fact that I could bring in business, I think they thought it was a really good idea to lock me down, what they thought was going to be for a lifetime, into that marketplace so that I could just continually build their practice. And so, yeah, did sometimes was I the little shit in the room, of course, but I was always a little shit with a big voice because I was one of six voices. And
Mhm.
um, so it was a really rewarding experience. I learned so much from the wisdom of that group. I learned so much from how I don't want to operate my business and my life from that group. And I also learned some really good things from that group. And so that was my life at that time, brother. But it seems like because that was now going on 6, 7 years ago, it's as if I never worked in that career now, which is amazing. And so it wasn't my life's calling, but it was certainly something that helped me understand business and life. And I'm really, really grateful for those people and those opportunities all along that way.
You can only burn the candle at both ends for so long, though, and I would imagine that working 10, 11, 12, up to 14-hour days, it's only sustainable for so long. And so what did that start to do to your body, both physically and mentally?
Well, I'll tell you what it did for me. And so my problem wasn't the hours because I really did at the time. So I'm gonna back up a little bit. This was so I went through a major, and this is important to what I do now and to this story. And so when I was what they call a principal, which is a fancy word for junior partner at the firm, I still had the corner office on the top of the building. I was one of the up and coming guys. I was making great money, fancy suit, cufflinks, tailor made car, you name it. But brother, for me, the truth is, and this is a little bit woo woo, I never dealt with those demons, wounds, insecurities, and fears from my past. I was still that little boy screaming, see me, hear me, love me. And so when the money, the success, the titles, the next big deal weren't filling me. And yes, we worked our butts off. So we were still doing 10, 12, 13-hour days. But what that didn't fulfill me, man, I turned to everything else wrong. So at 36 years old, here I am, a principal in a large firm doing big deals or big financial audits and serving big international communities. I turned to everything else. And so, because I never dealt with those wounds and I never felt like I could be myself. I still was that little kid who felt like he didn't belong in that world. And so I would wear all these, armors and masks, the tough guy, the cool guy, the important guy, the sexy guy that I can't ask for help guy, that I'm just going to outwork and out tough you. So basically a bully again, right? And when the money and titles didn't fulfill me, that's where I turned to everything else. And so at that age, if there was a list of 100 things not to do, I'd probably checked off 90 of them. And there I was again, a guy on the rise. If you'd have looked at me on the outside, you said, this kid's got everything going for him. And on the inside, I was crumbling. And so I literally woke up in a ditch after like 3 days of pure debauchery in Atlanta, looking up the sky. A week before, I was in probably some boardroom doing some multi-million-dollar whatever. And and I was just lost and scared. And I said, enough is enough. I mean, I didn't know how many more times and opportunities I get in life, but I knew I was pretty close to it here. Marriage was crumbling. People were running out of my life. I just wasn't living with any integrity or value systems. And so I said, enough is enough. And that's when I went on this huge transformative journey and made me my full time job, doubled down, participated in my own rescue, and invested in myself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And I didn't make the firm my full time job anymore. I made me my full time job. And that's when everything in my life started turning around. That's when my marriage started becoming the best it ever been. My network expanded drastically. My professional life increased 100x. My network increased 100x. But here's the best thing: self confidence, self respect, unconditional self love, peace of mind, and happiness increased 1,000x. And that's when, brother, that all of those accolades, the international practice leader, the shareholder, the election to the board of directors, and making more money than I ever thought I never could dream possible, that's when all of that actually happened. Because I started living in without my value systems, my truth, just became Tommy. And I wasn't this tough guy, cool guy, important guy. Truly, all that is just a big, big insecure guy. And so when I became me and made me my full time job, and to this day, I'm 9 years into this, I still spend an hour or two every morning on me, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And since then, since I put myself first so that I can serve my communities and other better, that's when the most amazing things in my life, love, happiness, success, and ultimately money has happened, brother. So that's important to this journey.
Now, when you say that all the money, the accolades and everything didn't matter and you started to turn to the worst things that you could turn to, what were some of those things that you turned to and why is it that you think you turned to them?
Just trying to feel that, trying to feel valuable, trying to feel important, trying to feel valued, trying to feel that darkness. The truth is, man, is we all have these wounds from our past. We all have these insecurities, these deep desires. We all have these thoughts in our head that ask ourselves, what if they figure out I really don't know what I'm doing? And am I truly good enough? Am I truly lovable? And am I truly valuable and worthy? And we all have some degree of that. Every single human being on earth. And, in a world of bullshit social media and news that wants to divide and scare us, it's time for us to say enough is enough and deal with that. And so I didn't know how to deal with it because I never dealt with any of that stuff from as a young man. And so I turned to, late nights out. It started slowly, man. It just started with way too much alcohol, and then way too much alcohol in clubs, and then way too much alcohol in strip clubs, and then way too much alcohol, strip clubs, cocaine, and then way too much alcohol, strip clubs, cocaine, and when it just kept getting darker and darker and deeper, and the the worst thing is you get an insecure little boy with makes a decent amount of money. It can turn, and like you said, it can happen overnight. It can happen in an instant. And I'm just very thankful that, I was on a one-way road to death, really. And I'm just so thankful that I just woke up one day and said, "Nee, I'm just not doing this anymore, man." And so it's just a way I was trying to fill a void of, am I good enough? Am I lovable? And am I worthy? Because the money, the power, the prestige, and the titles just didn't do it, man. And I hear it, in my world now with running, masterminds of ambitious people who want to be better in life and better in business, and in my one-on-one coaching and on stage when I'm doing public speaking. I hear it every single day in my life. We push and we push and we push and we push, and we want to make more money and more. And brother, I hear it every day of every hour. Don't get me wrong. I love money. Anybody says that money's not important, run, man. They're broke. But it's not going to make you feel fulfilled inside. It's not going to make you feel happy. It's not going to give you unconditional love and respect for yourself. And it's not going to make you whole. It's super important. It's super important to help you make impact. It's super important for you to live the life of your dreams and travel and have shiny things, all that stuff. I'm all for and love it. But at the end of the day, we've got to cultivate mental toughness. We've got to cultivate unconditional love for ourselves. We got to cultivate these practices to make us a whole human being, so that we can use our money, power, and success for goodness and not darkness, man. And so I'll get off my soapbox now. I'm just super passionate about this. I'm just super, super passionate about
No,
it.
no, please stay on it at least till at least till we're done here. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up is because I had one of those same mornings myself where I woke up and said, I
Mm.
I don't want to do this anymore, right? And so, for you waking up on that morning, what made you think of that? What made you think like this just isn't for me, I mean, obviously it probably wasn't the hangover, because I'm sure that
No,
you'd woken up with a hangover, at least once or twice before.
right.
And I mean, obviously, going out to strip clubs every other night, every night, that's going to take a toll on a marriage, but maybe it wasn't even that. So was there something that was very, very specific that slapped you in the face and was like,
I think it was
"Hey."
four things. I think it was four things, man. I think it was that little boy that was still deep down inside of this grown man saying, love me, see me, hear me. And I think it was fear of dying, or fear of just losing everything again, like I had when I was 18 years old. I think it was. I also think that, and I don't want to get too down this path, but I also think there was some divine help there. I think there was something deep inside of me that said I was put here for something more than this. This certainly it is, and it's time to go find your purpose and serve others the best you can. So I think it was a combination of divine or God. I think it was a combination of fear. I think it was that little boy deep down inside of me. And candidly, something, even though I was so closed and to business emotionally and mentally, I think something deep down inside of me said, there's something more than this. And if you continue down this path, you are going to die. And so um, I'm just very thankful for whatever the actual reason was. And that's all speculation, because, I can't put a finger on any of those things. I can just tell you how they felt to me. And so for me, I knew I have this core belief now, and this is after 9 years of cultivating. I have coaches and mentors, and I'm in a mastermind. I have psychologists, and I practice this craft heavily. Looking back on it now, I think all of us on this earth have a purpose. And I think we're here to use that purpose. And I also believe that purpose changes throughout our lifetime. So purpose is not something that's just one time and you're out. I think it's until our very last breath, until the day we're born. And I think we have a sense of responsibility to find it. And so it's a long-winded way of telling you that there was something deep inside of me said, there's something more for you out there. Now go find it. And so that's it, brother. I made me my full-time job. And I like the saying, I heard it from a river rafting guide one time, you got to participate in your own rescue because there's no magic pill and there's no one coming to save you on a white horse. And so if you don't do it, no one else will. So your happiness, your health, your peace of mind, your purpose, your life, your money, your success, and your ambition, it's all on you, man. Now go do it. And I think there was a lot of that in me just saying, you're better than this. Now go be better. And so it was basically a rock bottom moment. We could call it a spiritual transformation because that's a really sexy thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
But brother, it was my second rock bottom moment, if we want to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you say that you were going on this journey and you started, putting yourself first and not the job first, you were still working at the job, correct?
Oh, totally,
Right.
totally. But I
Okay.
went, but totally, I went from, and they didn't like it. But I literally went from like, let's say average of 60 hours a week. Sometimes it was 50, sometimes a lot more. But I went from like 60 to 30. And one favor that was done to me, I'd gone through all this marriage counseling, and then so all these counselors, these marriage counselors, knew that there was something deep and dark inside of me, and they were just trying to pull it out. But I tell you, I was closed and mentally, I didn't feel, and mentally and emotionally, I was closed. But now I was wide open, and I never forgot this. Marriage counselor told me, Tommy, there's this facility in Tennessee that in 7 days can do more for you than I can in 10 years. And I never forgot him telling me that. And so when I decided enough is enough and I wanted to figure out who I was, where I was going, and who's coming with me, I checked myself into that facility, and they spent 4 days cutting me open and helping me feel again and reconciling, why I acted and felt the way I did. And that was the first time I never felt alone. There were CEOs in the room, there was actual rock stars in the room, and there was normal Joes like me. And I saw that I wasn't alone in my thoughts, fears, insecurities, and my actions. And then they spent 4 days cutting you open, and then they spent 3 days putting you back together. And it was the best 7 days of my life. And from that 7 days, that started my journey on, building that unconditional love and respect for myself so that I can love and respect others, building that mental fortress to tell that inner critic that tells us we're not good enough to shut the fuck up. And literally, and you got to practice that every single day because your emotional muscles and your mental muscles are just as important as your physical muscles. And what happens when you don't go to the gym, right? You get lazy, your muscles start atrophying. Same thing
Mm-hmm.
goes with your heart and mind muscles, brother. And so this is a craft for me, and that started me on my journey of just self-development, self-improvement. And I call it a revelation, man, because I think it really reveals to us what we can be if we put in the hard work and truly choose to invest in ourselves first. And like I said, participate in our own rescue, brother. So that started the journey for me.
Now, we said this, in the pre-show, but it it's going to seem like your decision to then leave the firm happened overnight, but we can clearly see that this was something that was really building over the course of this journey that you're going on.
My
Um,
intention was to stay, actually.
okay.
I had no intention of leaving the financial consulting, accounting, audit, and M&A world. I had I was on the I was going toward the top of the game. Why? And I'd spent my entire career in it, and I was making great money. I had no intention of leaving, brother.
Well, not only that, but let's say maybe for the sake of argument, you pushed the envelope a bit as to how much you could work on yourself and how much you could work on the job. And it seemed like there was a pretty good balance. You were obviously
Totally.
able to build yourself back up emotionally, spiritually, physically, and get back to a place that you felt comfortable with yourself. And you were still working the job. So why? Why leave?
Yeah, and then to make matters worse, I was working half of what I ever work in my life, and my results were going through the roof. I mean, I'm not kidding. I went from being one of the most, because I was such an arrogant prick before my transformation. I went from being one of the most despised people in the firm to one of the most beloved. I went from being a forceful leader with insecurities to a passive leader and listener. The international practice grew. When I say exponentially, that's an understatement. And we end up winning like the Global Service Provider Award, and we beat out UPS for that award. And so the result, my network just exploded. And I was doing all this with half the work, but I was super, super, super intentional about leading and working and cutting out all the nonsense that we do every single day of our lives. And so that's when my career exploded. Junior partner, international practice leader, senior partner, board of director, and the money just kept coming. But here's the key, dude. It wasn't just the money; it was the relationship with my wife. It was my friendships. It was my happiness. It was my peace of mind. I just became me, dude. And so I had no intention. But then when I made it to the board of directors, and I started really looking around at the life, this particular business, and there's nothing wrong with that business or that life. I just started saying, like, there's got to be more than this. I wasn't fulfilled. I was still like, I just feel like there's something else for me. And at a certain point, man, and so this is the coolest thing. All these bankers, lawyers, entrepreneurs, corporate executives, ambitious, driven humans, men and women in my network saw me go through this massive transformation. They saw me find peace of mind. They saw me managing my time. They saw me, living with purpose and passion. And, they saw the intimate relationship I had with my wife and friends. But they saw me do that without giving up my ambition, my drive, or my money. And so about the 20th person that started reaching out to me and said, look, man, I don't know what you're doing. I want some of it. I was like, maybe this is my calling. And so maybe coaching and helping others through what I went through and using the playbook that I use to cultivate, I'm all about financial freedom, but I'm all about conquering our time and working with purpose and, mastering our mindset and blocking out all the noise in society. And so over time, I was like, I have to leave this. And brother, when I tell you I was set for the rest of my life if I would stay there, because I was only 39 years old. If I would have worked if I would have worked there another 30 years, dude, I would have had, 8, 9 digits in the bank account. So probably not 9, but certainly 8. It was just going to be very financially lucrative, but I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't my calling. And if I didn't leave, I would be doing the service and the employees of that firm a disjustice because I just didn't love it anymore. B, I would be doing me, finding my higher calling, working in my purpose, and really serving others the way I was meant and wanted to serve people. I was doing it an injustice. But it took a lot of coaching. It took a lot of great mentors. It took a lot of long discussions with my wife when I first resigned from the firm as an owner and board of director member. They told me I was foolish and an idiot, and of course they dangled the big money carrot in front of my face. And eventually, I had to tell them, dude, my soul is not for sale, and this is a decision I have to make for me. And I did not want, and I'm a big believer in this, man. I did not want to live with regrets the rest of my life, working for a business I didn't love nor was passionate about, and just wanted to go out and chase a dream. And I can tell you this, brother. I can tell you this. It was 1,000,000% the best decision I ever made. Now it's taken me 7 or 8 years, but the money's been replaced and replaced. When I say replaced, it's gone the other way. We've got a thriving one-on-one practice. We've got a thriving public speaking movement. We've got a book that just hit Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller. We're changing lives. We've got masterminds where people are literally being better humans, better business people, better leaders, and just we're serving and serving and serving each and every day. And I am fulfilled. I am happy. I am living in my purpose. And on a business and professional level, I've never been more successful in my life. But it took time. It took courage. It took patience. And you know what? It could all be taken away tomorrow, brother, and I would have zero regrets because we just built it again. And so I am so it took a lot of courage. It took a lot of love. It took a lot of coaching. I still have coaches to this day because I think coaches need coaches. I think leaders need leaders. And I think that's what made Kobe, man. He was always surrounded by people making him better. And so I'm super passionate about this stuff. So no, I just went on another soapbox, so forgive me. But no, man, I did not plan on leaving. But there was something again inside of me that said, man, when you've got the world at your fingertips and you're looking up at the stars and thinking, there's still something missing. That's that purpose. That's that fulfillment. That's something bigger than you and the money and your family and your kids. That's what you're here for. And I found myself just staring out the window on the top of that firm and sitting in those damn meetings. And brother, I got to be honest, man. I don't share this publicly very often, but fuck it, I don't care. I would look around I was constantly networking in these high end restaurants all over the planet and these high end events. And all I saw was a bunch of empty suits chasing the same damn clients to make a little more money, to impress people they don't like with shit they don't ever use. And they're just working their asses off and they're not happy. And when I was looking around, seeing those 60 and 70 and 50-year olds with their fifth marriage and not happy and not fulfilled, chasing the same damn clients, I was like, oh, hell no. And so I just had to leave, man. And so that's the truth, brother. And I don't share that very often. I know that probably sounds arrogant, but man, to this day, when I walk in, I don't wear those suits anymore. I've grown my hair out. I have a beard, still eating at those restaurants when I want to eat there, not when I'm forced to eat there, when it's special. And I look around at those people, it actually makes me quite sad that that's what they feel they have to do and they just want validation. That's what they're
Mhm.
seeking.
Mhm.
They're seeking validation, brother, like all of us, but they're just never going to find it in that restaurant seeking those clients, my man.
One of the things that you brought up earlier that I want to touch on, because I feel like in life and in the sport of triathlon, in a weight loss journey, this is something that everyone is going to need. And
100%.
it's the topic of mental toughness, right? So
Mhm.
it doesn't it doesn't matter what it is that you're doing. It it's going to require mental toughness at some point. Um, so to you, what does mental toughness mean to you? And what is, I'm going to say one way, but I have a feeling you're going to give me more than one. But what is one way that someone could really work on their mental toughness?
So there's more than one way, but mental toughness to me means the easiest thing in the world to do is quit and give up. And that doesn't matter if it's a race and a triathlon, when things get tough in life, because it's not, if life happens, it's when.
Hmm.
We're going to get sick. We're going to have bad relationships. We're going to lose jobs. And everybody listening to this, including myself and you, Ian, we're all going to die. And that's just reality. And so for me, mental toughness is about having the discipline to live your truth, to be the human you were born to be. Stop giving credence to what other people's opinions and thoughts are because they're not really thinking about you that much anyway. And pushing through I think mental toughness is taking action and continuing to take action and continuing to take action and never stopping taking action until your last breath. And I think it's physical, I think it's mental, I think it's emotional, and for me, I think it's also spiritual. And so, the easiest way for me to tell you how to do that is, I mean, I know it's been said a million times, but it has paid dividends 2 million X in my life. Get the negative energy vampires, the judgmental, the cynics, the negative people out of your life, the people that are always bitching and complaining and put credence into politics and what some guy in Washington said, who live in fear and insecurity and are rooting for the world to blow up and you not to succeed. And surround yourself with people who are taking the same journey as you, who want to do better, who will hold you accountable, will love you when you need to be loved, and kick you in the face when you need to be kicked. And so my inner circle, which I call my inner board of directors, which is about somewhere between 10 and 20 people in my life, they love me, they support me, they root me along on the way, but they also hold me accountable to my value systems and my truth. I also pay, I think, having great coaches in your life for whatever your craft is. I have a coach that I pay to make me a better professional and a better man. I'm involved in a mastermind group to be a better professional and a better human. So I think it's surrounding yourself with people who want to make you better, who are like minded, who want to succeed as well, and you guys constantly sharpening the pencil together. For me, I hire people to make me better too because I want to learn from the world's best so that I can do my craft of coaching masterminds and public speaking better. And here's the key to develop true mental toughness, man. You need to get on the love, you got to get on the love, gratitude, and abundance side of life and not the fear side. And so you've got to believe there's enough in this world for people. So, practicing gratitude every single day of your life, both formally and informally, that gets you in the present moment and helps you to know what you do have and not focus on what you don't. I would say cut out the noise, man. Minimize social, and I have to do social media for my public speaking and mastermind work. But
Mhm.
I would say, cut out the social media as much as you can, or limit your feed to positive, loving, abundant people who are pushing forward. Cut out all the noise and the negativity and the judgments and the politics and all that nonsense. Turn off the news, man, because that is meant to scare you and divide you. That is all they give a shit about because that's what sells. And literally read as much as you can get your hands on, or listen to podcasts like this as much as you can get it, because you've got to continue to grow. You've got to continue to learn. So I read every business book I can get my hand on. I can read every self-development book I can get my hand on. And I read every book of people who inspired me, and so I'm constantly reading, I'm constantly growing. I cut out all the noise, and finally, one of the things that's been most I'm just throwing them down for you, but this is all simple shit, man. This is not calculus, man. I have calculus. This is the simple steps to get there. Now we have harder things that we can do to make us even better, but we're not there for this podcast yet. But finally, I would start a meditation practice, man. I would get quiet because this is a very noisy world, and watch how your mind races, and through breathing and guided meditations. And that's one of the things I love teaching the most, especially to these alpha humans, because
Mhm.
they hate it at first and end up loving it. It exercises your mind, it exercises your heart, it gets you in the present moment, because most of us are living constantly in the future or the past. It helps you get here right now. And the biggest thing it helps you to do in life, it helps you to be proactive and not reactive. So develop an inner circle of friends, up your friends, get some great coaches, read everything you can get your hand on, cut out the noise, practice gratitude, and meditate. And you will be you don't ever have to do anything again, brother. And it'll also help you, man. And here's the thing we don't like to talk about in this society. All of those things help you cultivate unconditional self love and respect for yourself. And I'm a big believer that you can't love and respect others until you love yourself, and watch your money, success, and happiness go through the roof. But this journey ain't for everybody. That's why the 5% are the 5%, man. It's not that they're lucky, it's because they do the damn work.
Mhm.
And so if you're unhappy or unfulfilled or unsuccessful in life, go to the nearest mirror, look in it, and that's the reason why.
So I promised that I was gonna get you off of here by the time. So
Surprised my
it's
wife's not beating down the door.
well, and
But so far, so good, brother. I don't even know if she's here because I haven't heard her come in. Usually you'd hear the dogs bark.
I mean, I have like I think about 3 minutes left that on the time that we agreed upon. So, God, I could probably keep talking for like another hour at minimum. I can't believe that an hour has already gone by. But just the last thing that I would like to end with is, you gave plenty of action steps there to work on mental toughness and to better ourselves. But the one thing that I would like to get from you is, with this podcast, my goal is to help people who are stuck on the sideline and they're waiting to take that first step, and they're waiting for that perfect moment, right? They're waiting for the planets to align. They're waiting for, they're
That's
just
not
waiting for it to be right, right? And it's not going to happen. It's just
no,
not.
planets don't align, brother. There is no perfect time.
But so what I want you to offer up is just one piece of advice for somebody who is in that position, and they haven't taken the first step yet, but it's there. They have the idea, right? They have the intention. They just don't have the action yet.
So the first thing I would say, let's start without the action. Let's start with the wisdom. And here's the truth is we're all scared, we're all insecure, and we all struggle with, am I good enough? What will they think? What if I fail? And we all want to be validated, we all want to be important, we all want to be safe, and we all want to be seen, heard, and loved. And here's the truth. I mean, we all want that. And so, first of all, you're not alone in your fears, insecurities, and your desires. And so, one thing I think one of the reasons me and others like me were put on this earth is to tell you, A, you're not alone in that, You can develop the courage, but nothing is going to change until you take that first step. So some say the hardest step is the first step. I don't know if I agree with that, brother. You've got to take the first step first and start small, think big, and be patient. But nothing is going to change until you change your actions, thoughts, and intentions. Nothing is going to change until you change your actions, thoughts, and intentions. There is no magic pill. There's not anything coming to save you. And there is no overnight success, by the way. All those people that we look up to, whether it's authors, writers, actors, musicians, rock stars, CEOs, business people, entrepreneurs, they're all somewhere between 5 and 45 to 50 years in the making. The only difference between them and the rest of us is they take action. They they eliminate the noise and what other people think. They stay patient. They fail and they learn from their failings and they move forward. Okay, so enough of all the cliche, but all of that is very true. The reason things are said time and time again, that's universal truth and wisdom. And so, what's one small action for every single human being on earth? And you got to start small and dream big. So, what is one small action that you can take tomorrow to change up your routine? If you're in a job you don't like, is it starting to put your resume out there for a new job? If there's a skill you want to learn, is it going to the library or getting online to check out what that skill is and what those people do? And so you can model yourself, whether you want to be a great artist or an entrepreneur or a musician, or you just want to go save kids somewhere around the world. None of that's wrong, dude. And so start researching what the people that you're inspired by are doing and just take one action today that will lead to tomorrow. But the key is action. And the hard thing after that is continued action, and continued action. Because the easiest thing to do is the thing that we've always done. It's the safest thing to do and the easiest and the most convenient, and nothing ever happens if nothing ever happens, right? And so um, find out who do you look up to? What are they doing? How are they doing it? And how did they begin? Research it and just take one baby step after the next. And the key is to stay patient, but to continue taking action. And so each individual is different. If you want to start working on your mindset, start a gratitude or meditation practice. If you want to start becoming a better business person, I mean, you're going to have to learn basic skills of business, accounting, finance, operations, sales. Start learning and start reading as much as you can. Find a mentor. There's people that you look up to. There's probably somebody that really cares about you or inspires you that's somewhere near around you. Find that person and talk to them. Have a conversation. Buy them a cup of coffee. So there's 1 trillion small steps you can take. Is it getting up early in the morning and go for a walk because you just want to be healthier than you are? I mean, it's all up to you. Again, if you're unhappy, unfulfilled, unsuccessful, and you think there's more in life and you want to know why you're not getting there, find the nearest mirror, look in it. That's your issue. And know you're not alone and all you're like giving a damn what other people think. Eventually that caring about that eventually does get less and less and goes away. And just live your truth, find your purpose, and go out there and take baby steps. And as long as you continue to take steps, you're going to be better than you were yesterday. But if you don't do anything, welcome to the world of being stuck, unfulfilled, and ultimately dying with regrets. And what's more sad than that, man?
Well, I know who I'm looking to model myself after this interview because I mean it was amazing. So I want to say thank you very much for coming on the podcast this evening. The
Oh, you're welcome,
last
brother.
the last thing that I want you to do, just real quick before your wife kicks the door in, let everybody know where they can find you and where they can see what you're up to, purchase the book, whatever it may be.
Yeah, so the book is all over Amazon, Barnes& and Noble. It's everywhere now, and we're super proud. It hit Wall Street Journal #3 last week. Super stoked about that. The book is called Legendary, and why I love that title is legendary in a world of constant self-promotion. If we give ourselves the title legendary, people laugh at us. But you can be a great legend or a shitty legend. But the good thing about being a legend is it's given to us by society. And so I want to leave this world a better place than I found it. I want to leave a lasting legacy. I want, like I've talked about, live with purpose and conquer my time and develop a strong inner circle of friends and block out that noise and master our mindset and ultimately have intimate relationships with my significant other and friends and cultivate unconditional self-love and respect. And that's what this book is all about. And it's simple tools, actions, and stories that I apply in my life every day and that people that inspire me do. So again, that's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can actually purchase it on my website. My website is tommybreedlove.com. And brother, there is if you go onto the website and sign up, what I'll give you is a 1-page legendary life plan. It's literally how I live my life every single day of my life. It was really cool. I went to a big advertising agency recently and I saw that hanging all over the cube. So it's literally my life hanging on their cubes. And what I do is give you a blank page to start building one of your own. If you want to know one small action step you can take tomorrow, model your life after that one. I also give you an example of my personal mission statement and a blank piece of paper so that you can build your own. And that's the core values and beliefs that you want to hold yourself accountable for. And finally, I also offer you the formula and my purpose in life and tell you how to get that formula and purpose, and you can fill that out on your own. So it's really 3 1-pagers that you can do. You can go buy the book, man, but I would love for you to just take action and do something. If it's not me, if I'm strawberry and you're looking for chocolate, find chocolate. But man, I'm super excited about the book. It's probably the most proud thing I am in my life. I honestly think it's going to change lives. We sold thousands in the first week, and it's called Legendary. Hope you check it out. And the key is not just to check it out. The key is to read it and to apply it in your life. And just very thankful to be here for you, Ian. And if you really want to take the next level, is look into one-on-one coaching or look into joining a mastermind. And for those of you who don't know what masterminds is where 10 minds come together and they become one mind. And it's to build that mental toughness, that emotional toughness, but to be better business people, to be better leaders and fathers and wives and husbands, and to just be better than we were yesterday. And those people become your inner circle, and the impact that can have on your life is 100x. And I'll stop talking now because this has been an honor. And thank you for letting me share that at the end, my brother.
I appreciate it so much. And Tommy, I appreciate your time here on the podcast. And please tell your wife I said thank you as well.
You're very welcome, my man. You're very welcome. I can smell the food. It smells amazing. I'm not sure what we're having, but it smells awesome.
Well, enjoy.
Thank you, man.
All right, my friend, that is it. That is my interview with Tommy Breedlove. And I want you to just take a minute and reflect on that episode. Reflect on how it made you feel and see if there was anything that really, really resonated with you. If there was, or if you enjoyed this episode, do me a favor. Reach out. Let me know. Let me know what you liked about this episode. Let Tommy know that you heard this episode here on the Do It For Yourself podcast, and what you thought about it. So he left his social media in the end here, but you can find him quite easily with a Google search of his name, Tommy Breedlove. And I just want to say thanks for hanging out with us. If you can, please do me a huge favor and leave us a review on Apple Podcast or whatever app it is that you are using to consume these podcasts. I thank you so much for hanging out with us, and I look forward to seeing you for the next episode.